So I'm doing a little pre-video that you really might want to watch after the video, but if you watch it beforehand, it's not going to hurt you as well. And the reason I'm doing this pre-video is that I'm doing what I've done a couple of times this semester, and in that I'm giving you a lecture I did in the past semesters. And I looked at it today and it's still very relevant. You will take notes, but the most important thing will be the database design that you do that I show. I give you an example and then I say you create something. So a couple things I just want to give you the heads up about that I see students do on this assignment. One is that I'm going to, and you'll see this when I move over to the content in a minute, but I give you a link to copy an existing Google Doc. And what that does by default is it places it in your drive. It doesn't place it into the shared with Rio. So you want to make sure you move that into the shared with Rio, and then in your classwork after your notes, give me a link to that file. Okay, so that's the first thing. And the second thing, and I'm going to show you the second thing because it's the most important that I see students miss on this work. But before I turn over there, I just want to say we're at week 15. We're now seeing, and in the video you'll hear me talk about this because for all semesters, week 15 is the first week we start to see a decrease in the items that we have in this class. And for us in this particular semester, it's Thanksgiving week. So I moved the due dates over to the next due date in the schedule. So what is normally on Thursday because of Thanksgiving will be pushed to Monday. And the nice thing in here for this semester is because we're starting to decrease items, which in this case is a chapter quiz. You end up having 3 items on one night versus 4. Okay, so before I move over and just give you a little heads up, you don't have to take notes on this part of it. You will take notes on the content in the classroom. But I want you to know, and I've said this, so I'll say it again, the final is available for you to take. I will have the final available for you to actually place in Blackboard soon. But basically what you're going to do is the same thing you've done in the past, which is basically just take of your score. You'll create the PDF file, put it up in the shared with Rio, and give me a link. Okay? So hopefully you all understand how this semester ends as far as due dates and far as what can be done, because I had you do that last week, I think, or the week before. Last week actually, and it seemed like most of you got that process. So let's turn now over, and just as a reminder of what I talked about, here's the Thanksgiving hitting us, and so I've moved the classwork, our last Codecademy, and our last Microsoft Access, and I put those here instead of placing the classwork and the hands-on here. So that's FYI. So now let's actually go look at the classwork for this week. I'm going to go ahead and oh yeah, that's right. I can't look at it that way. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I'm going to look at it this way. So in this week of classwork, you're going to do something that is really, I think, fundamental. Okay, and again, I'm not going to review what you're doing in here, but I want to talk about this step of it. In addition, and actually I talk about sharing it, shared with Rio directory. Make sure you do that. So this link then does a copy. And it's going to copy the document that I've given you. Interesting, it says week 16, it's week 15, but that's okay, I'll have you change it. So I'm going to make a copy, right? And then by default, it's placing it into just the root of my Google Drive. That's why you need to move that thing, right? That's why I'm talking about making sure, see here? And actually even in here, you can change it and then move it into that directory. If you've never used that feature, that's a nice thing to do. Like in here, I could do shared with Rio, right? And then I could just say move it here. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that. So I have it, right? So we'll do a couple of things here. Let's go 17, and then we'll just do not copy of, but that, okay? So again, I'm not going to go through all of it, but here's what I see most students don't do on this. First, make sure you give me the name of the database, name it, right? You saw me do the movies database, right? And in the example I showed in class, I only showed you these two fields, right? Which was really helping you understand the connection between this entity and this entity. So don't so make sure you get this when I talk about it. And then these two fields are two additional fields I'm having you add. Okay, so you don't have to add extra fields and records and rows here, but you do need to at least have two additional ones. So here's the thing: name your entity, right? So for mine it was customers and movies and rentals, right? So make sure you give each one, and then whatever you give that, make sure, right? And I know it was customers, but it doesn't matter, right? So the field here would be MID. Okay, so it's movie. M means movie, so it's in the movie table, MID. And then the field, now, as I say in there, you would really keep track of just more than just movie title, right? Okay, and then here, whatever you call this, right, you would then make sure you add your fields. Now, what gets a little confusing is these first two fields, MID, is really saying in this rental table, right, I'm referring to that movie. You're not placing the title in here, you're just referencing the ID of the movie. And then over here, right, is whatever the entity, and again what I do, and by the way, don't use my example, right? Come up with your own. I want you to think of something that you would want to do, keep track of. Make up something, it doesn't matter, right? So this would be customer. So then this would be CID, right? And then this would be customer name. So this field, because it connects these entities into here, then this would be CID. Now this will be whatever you name these things as far as names, and then field names follow along because they're used as a standard in this case. Okay, so then this one would be whatever you call it. I called it rental, so it's RID. And then these other fields will be whatever you call them. R. Again, I'm giving you the example I did in the video. But I see this is what threw most students off. They're like, they were naming these something else. So you don't do that. These first two are what's used to connect these two entities or these two tables relationally into here. And then these last two you give field names to that indicate the table name, rental. So let's say it was type. Let's say it was total, or actually price. Okay, so part of this is just understanding what I'm asking you to do. And then make sure you write 3 queries your data will answer. Okay, so that's what I want to make sure you do, because I saw most students when they did this, not most, a couple, many of them got it right. But I just want to show you a heads up, so make sure you don't do that and you get all the points for this, because not only is it an important part, it's going to be a large part of the points, but it's also an important concept for you to understand. All right, hope that helps you out. And by the way, I'm working on week 16 already. Here's a draft of what I'm doing. We're going to create a website that's like a resume site. So I'm taking it from one of the code academies, and we're going to start with that and then build something on there, and then I'll show you how to put it out on a site to host it. Anyway, talk to you later. Have a good week. Have a good Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for the job that I have. I'm grateful for all of you. I hope you enjoy your time with your families.